The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we'll be talking with Renee Labrie-Shanks about SMP, all of the things they're doing about COVID-19 scams that are coming up, and how Senior Medicare Patrol is always there looking out for Montana's Medicare beneficiaries. So make sure you stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss all of this really great information with Renee Labrie-Shanks.
With as many as 1 in 10 Americans at risk for Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia, chances are someone you know and love will receive that diagnosis. When that happens, you may well feel devastated, but know that you are not alone. Help is available. You don't have to face dementia by yourself. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
It's been 27 years. I never thought I'd still be smoking, but here I am, COPD and all. I'm about to have a granddaughter. There's so much to show her, but I'm scared I won't be able to keep up like I used to. I kind of gave up on myself on quitting. But it's different now. I want to be here for her and for my daughter.
When I stopped showing up, Jim showed up at my door. He took me to the hospital in town to get me help. That's the day Jim saved my life.
Everyone has a role to play in preventing suicide. Know the signs and don't be afraid to speak up. If someone you know is in crisis or emotional distress, the only wrong thing to say is nothing at all. Call 800-273-TALK or text MT to 741-741.
Every generation produces heroes, men and women who step forward to defend our country in time of need, no matter the personal cost to themselves. And though we can never fully repay them, we can make sure they have access to low-cost, long-term care when they need it. That's what Montana's Veterans Homes are all about. If you've got a hero in need in your family, call us. We can help.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host today, Katie Lovell, and we'll be interviewing Renee Labrie-Shanks, who's the Program Manager for Senior Medicare Patrol. Renee, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I have worked with you guys many times in the past. I think SMP is such a great program. But could you give us an overview of what you guys do?
Yes, thanks for asking. So Montana SMP, as ever, we are the Senior Medicare Patrol for Montana. There is an SMP in every state and U.S. Protectorate, actually. And what we do is we empower seniors to prevent healthcare fraud, waste, and abuse. That's our main mission.
And how does someone contact SMP?
Yes, in Montana, we are housed with each Area Agency on Aging. We are run out of the Area 7 Area Agency on Aging at Missoula Aging Services, where our mission is to promote the independence, dignity, and health of older adults and those who care for them. And this program fits right in with there because people would lose their independence, dignity, and health really quickly when they fall for these scams.
And what does SMP do for the general Medicare beneficiary?
Well, what we mainly do, our main goal is outreach and education to prevent Medicare waste, fraud, and abuse and other healthcare fraud. And we do that through presentations mainly. You know, we're out in front of people and we try to break down what Medicare fraud really is, how much it's costing us, and how much the person themselves who are on Medicare can do to stop it themselves.
And I've heard some really great tips that you guys have in general for how to protect yourself. What are some of those best tips?
The number one tip that somebody can do to protect themselves and protect Medicare is to not give out their personal information, which includes their Medicare card. Even though it's a new number that's not attached to their identity any longer, it is still attached very much to Medicare. And if somebody gets that, they can still bill Medicare in their name. So we really want to know, we want people to know that treat it like a credit card still and to protect it. And scammers are trying to use the new information and everything that's changing to take advantage of some confusion and get a hold of that number more than ever, frankly. It will continue. So protecting their identity has gone a long way to help a lot. However, we're still needing to protect Medicare. So if people, number one, don't give out that number unless they know who they're talking to. And the biggest second one is to read their Medicare summary notices or the Medicare Advantage explanation of benefits.
And those explanations of benefits, they're where all of your healthcare information is contained. Every doctor you've seen, every procedure you've had done, that's what's on those notices?
Yes, the notices contain anything that was billed in that person's name during a period of time. The Medicare Advantage explanation of benefits arrive monthly if somebody received services, and the statements from Medicare arrive quarterly if somebody received services. And that will record anything that anybody is trying to bill in their name, whether it's legitimate or not. So if a person, say their number did get out there and they're unaware of it, the way to stop it is to notice it on their statement and call it in, because somebody's not going to send them a bill for something they're trying to steal from Medicare, because they know that's when people will call, obviously, if they're going to be out money. However, they're going to try and steal Medicare under the realm there, and they can easily tell if it's happening by just reading those statements.
And then, Renee, if they see anything on those statements that they don't recognize, that's when they contact you.
Yes, we definitely want to hear from them. We want to hear from them if they see things they don't recognize, if they're seeing things that seem like they're billed more than what they received, dates they don't recognize, providers they don't recognize, certainly. We had a rash of durable medical equipment fraud last spring and into the fall where there were providers who the people had never seen, and they had approved orders for orthotics and braces and devices such as that. And Medicare was out thousands of dollars just with the 9 or 10 cases that we saw. So people really need to look at those. And our biggest fear now, we're pushing everyone for that mymedicare.gov, where they go online and they can review their statements in real time, which is great. However, there's an option when they're in there to opt out of receiving paper statements. And that's the big fear, is that they'll no longer receive them. They're just going to be out of sight, out of mind, and they're not going to be reviewing them. So please, we caution people, if you're on mymedicare.gov looking at your statements when you need to, great, but please always go in and look at them regularly.
Absolutely. That's really good to know. And I think it's really good to know that even if you're not personally out of money, it's still so important to report any of that fraud that you're seeing, because it really protects Medicare, which protects all of us.
Yes. And I think people think that Medicare fraud is so overwhelming. It's so big. Like, what can one person do? So we need to really break that down and get into that, because I think once we do that, people realize what a big difference it really does make for them on the front line. They're the first line of defense, that they really are the ones that make that difference.
Absolutely. And again, when someone is looking to contact their local SMP, they just reach out to their area agency on aging.
Yep, they call that 1-800-551-3191 in Montana, and they will get directly to their local office on aging that will connect them with SMP.
Wonderful. Renee, when we get back, I'd like to talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting your work. Great. So make sure you stay tuned with us. We're going to talk all about how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting Medicare. So make sure you stay tuned.
think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
I have so many questions about power of attorney.
Well, some powers of attorney are for finances and others are for healthcare decisions.
A power of attorney designates an agent who would make decisions on your behalf.
While making a power of attorney, you have the ability to control your agent's power.
You also have the ability to decide when that POA would take effect.
Wait, am I giving away all my rights?
Power of attorney isn't a license to make any decision for you, just those that you've specified.
Your agent should be somebody that's working in your best interest, but it should also be somebody that you would trust.
What if they try to abuse their power?
Protective measures like third-party accounting, secondary signatures, defined spending and gifting limits can help protect against financial exploitation. An agent's powers can always be limited by a customized power of attorney, and they can be revoked by you or the court if the power of attorney is abused.
So carefully drafted estate planning documents can help ensure that your finances are monitored, but not abused.
If you or someone you know is being exploited, please report to Aging Services Bureau at 844-277-9300 or the Legal Service Developer at 1-800-332-2272. This message sponsored by the DPHHS Aging Service Bureau.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we're speaking with Renee Labrie-Shanks about SMP. Renee, I know that SMP must be being impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. What ways are you seeing this change the way that you do your work?
It's a good question. Like everyone, we are at home doing our work, which usually we're trying to be out in front of people to tell them directly in front of them what's going on. So we're trying to reach through Facebook and YouTube and record some videos and really get out in front of people that way on their devices. And as we're telling them that, we're also telling them not to click on links and, accept texts from people they don't know and things like that. So it's a tricky area for sure. But we're really just trying to remind people over and over again. We've seen a lot of new changes with Medicare with the COVID-19, and that's when people are really going to take advantage of Medicare.
Absolutely. And I think scammers are going to use this trying time in American history to come up with all sorts of new scams and schemes. What are you seeing so far?
Thanks for asking that. They always hit on fear, and there's a lot of fear right now, so they're going to take advantage of that. And there's also a lot of new changes, and anytime that happens, they're going to take advantage of that. So first, we want to, tell people to slow things down. Don't accept any unsolicited texts, calls, emails, and even door to door. I don't know how much we'd see of that in Montana, but it's happened in other states. People trying to sell testing supplies for COVID-19. Medicare's not in the business of marketing like that. They're not going to call you. They're not going to contact you in any way. So people need to just be diligent and ignore those texts, block those calls, do not pick up. That's the big thing. With the changes to Medicare, they need to understand some of these new changes so they know what to expect. Medicare's never turned on a dime like I've seen it turning right now. One of the biggest things that has been beneficial for people or will be is telehealth services. They have added over 80 new telehealth services to people to make it available so they don't have to go in person. Because another thing we don't want to see at the end of all of this is people who have put off seeing their doctors because of COVID-19 fears. And then we're going to see a whole new rash of possibly preventative health damage that's occurred in this time. So we want people to access them, and don't be afraid. Medicare has made it so they don't need to use a video phone in order to do this. They can just use an audio phone. And this is whether they need to call the emergency department, their routine doctor appointment, to check in about some chronic illnesses or whatever's going on. We want them to still access their doctors, but from the safety of their home. So yes, telehealth is definitely something that is legitimate and that they can access. And if they have questions, they could call a local SHIP counselor or call their doctor's office. That we don't want them to go out of their house, but we don't want them missing valuable health, consults with their doctors either. And then they do need to know Medicare indeed will cover COVID-19 tests when and if they need them and they're available. And that is something they don't have to worry about. Also, if and when, I should say when, the vaccine is available, Part D, their drug plan, will cover the COVID-19 vaccine. So that will be another covered service. So what I don't want people to do is go, oh, Medicare's made all these changes, they're going to contact me and let me know. They're not. If people need help with understanding their benefits during this time, it's best that they call 1-800-MEDICARE or they contact their local SHIP counselor.
Absolutely. And then I'm sure these scams that we're seeing popping up are just sort of reiterations of all the scams we've seen before. What are the biggest ones you've seen hit Montana so far?
We have had people receive the phone calls and the texts, and that's something that, as long as people are going to pick up their phones, again, they're feeding on people's fear that people are going to fall for scams. And there's been already, unfortunately, nationwide, millions lost in this pandemic just from scams and people answering phones and offering money. And once people have access to your bank account, if they're not paying attention, they take everything they can get. So if people can, one, don't give out their Medicare number. I know I keep saying that, but I think that what happens is when people are in the middle of one of these scam calls, that they just get, these people are professionals at what they do. They're con artists, and they've been doing it for millennia. That's what con artists do. So please just don't pick up your phone unless you know who it is. If it's important, they'll leave a message. That is the biggest thing that people can do right now. Texting. I think people aren't used to getting texts that scam them, but that's happening. There are definitely texts going around saying, you're eligible for services, please respond. Don't click on any texts. Don't click on links in an email. You need to verify your sources at all times. And if somebody's sending you an email for a device or something that you need to order, chances are that's already a scam unless you have reached out to a company. So those are the main things. Ignore online offers too for vaccinations and for ads touting products or cures. When they are available, they will know it. They do not answer ads and do not search on the internet for any of that right now.
Sure. Right now, it's just really important to remember that COVID-19 tests are only available through a doctor's office, and there isn't currently a vaccine, but when there is, it will be available through a doctor's office.
Yes.
Awesome. Renee, thank you for all of that information. When we get back, I'd really like to talk about why this fraud is so important and what people can do to help protect themselves. So make sure you stay tuned. When we get back, we're going to talk about everything SMP can do to protect you and your community.
I was diagnosed with diabetes in 1992, and I went into denial. It made me angry. I was a professional chef, and I didn't want to change my eating style. It took me a long time to get serious about managing my health. My perspective changed from resentment to one of loving my body, the container for my spirit. Getting help from my diabetes educator supported my goals of improved self-care. I want to feel good and have a great life. My diabetes educator helps me do this.
Good care is your right. In Montana, there's over 11,000 beds in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. If you or a family member needs assistance or help in obtaining information about care issues and placement options, call 1-800-332-2272. If you or a family member need information about Montana's long-term care resident rights, or if you need help solving a problem or a complaint about a nursing home or an assisted living facility, call us at 800-332-2272.
If you give or receive care, you already know that it can cause stress on caregiver and receiver alike. The good news is, if you have limited resources, help is available. The Montana Lifespan Respite Program may be able to help you pay for care while you take a break. Even better news is how easy it is to apply. You can get an application online or have one sent to you. We'll get back to you within 5 working days. Respite for caregivers. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to get it.
If the Aging Network in Montana was a restaurant, the sign out front would say, over 50 million meals served over the last 30 years. Since adequate nutrition is critical to health and quality of life, nutrition services are an important factor in keeping older Montanans healthy, independent, and living in their community and home. To find out more about senior nutrition programs in your area, call 1-800-551-3191.
Welcome to Aging Horizons. Today we're speaking with Renee Labrie-Shanks, who is the head of the SMP program in Montana. Renee, I want to just talk about why Medicare fraud is so important. What impact does that have on Medicare and on society in general?
When I try to break it down to people how big it is, and then break it down to how small it really is, because on the front end, we're losing $60 billion a year. And that just sounds like too astronomical that nobody's going to help, solve that in themselves. Because that's like paying for the EPA and NASA and the Department of the Interior. There's a lot of money is being lost just to the fraud that we could use for so much else. So when I tell people, yes, you can make a difference, because you liken it to, would you rather stop a bank robber, or not a bank robber, I mean, we want to stop those too, but would you rather stop someone breaking into your house after they just broke the glass of your front door, but they haven't gotten in, and they didn't run around your house stealing everything they could, running out the back door, and then pawning it all, and then 3 years later catching them? I mean, what good does that do? We want to stop them at the front door. And when people get their statements in the mail, or go online to mymedicare.gov and look at them, they can stop them when they're at the door. They can stop them when they see a provider they don't recognize, or somebody who's billing for something in their name that they're not aware of. That's when they can stop them. And it stops it when it's $100 or $500, because by the time Medicare catches it, it's a pattern that's developed. It's 1.9 million. We're not going to get that money back. Plus, we're spending money trying to get it back. So we need to stop it at the front door. And that's the biggest message to people is, please be diligent. Look at your statements, especially now.
And there's no number too small to call about, too small of a mistake to really address.
No, there was a woman, and I have said this story for 20 years now probably, but she questioned $9.19. Can you guess how much that returned to Medicare? Because it was a mistake that year. It was $1.37 million returned to Medicare because of a $9 question.
That's amazing.
That's what we're talking about.
That's amazing. So in general, the biggest scams we're seeing with COVID-19 are around testing?
It is. Unsolicited calls, unsolicited door-to-door visits, the robocalls for sure, but also in emails, people receiving offers for either the testing, maybe Medicare's calling to provide you with some free testing. That's not happening. Or here's a product that will cure the coronavirus, not happening. So just look out for the calls that you're not wanting to receive, and the emails and the texts. I can't say that enough. Right now, that's the biggest thing that is being heard across the nation in regards to the fraud.
And Renee, do you think that this is going to be something that ends really quickly, or maybe extends as we deal with the repercussions of the coronavirus for months, possibly years?
Right. Well, I can't exactly forecast, but I can say once the vaccine is readily available, or maybe antivirals, and people are receiving those, that we're going to see this tone down. We had a big rash of genetic test kits this last year that was going rampant across the nation again. And that happened in Montana, where people responded to even Facebook ads. Facebook can't stop all of the fraud that is coming across their doors as well. So people would respond to an offer for, oh, do you have cancer in your family? Let's get this genetic test to you. It's a little swab. You send it back in the mail, and it'll save your life. You know, things like that. So the genetic test kits, we saw that for the last couple of years, and the COVID test kits are going to just be running on its heels. So if people can ignore that, do not accept anything in the mail that you're not expecting. If it's a COVID-19 test, do not accept it. If you've already had somebody call you, or you've spoken to someone or responded to an ad, we want to hear about that. Please contact SMP and report that. Report any calls that you've received that seem to be related to this. The Attorney General's office is very interested in this, as is the Office of Inspector General. So if people have received calls, whether they've given information out or not, we want to hear about it. We want the phone numbers, we want the details, as much information as they can provide, and to please report it to the local SMP.
That's wonderful. You can be really good community members just by reporting the things that have happened to you, even if you didn't give out any information.
Yes, because we want to make sure everybody's aware of what's happening in their neighborhoods. So if it's happened to one person, we guarantee it's happening to more. So we can get some press releases out. We can get the message out of what's going on and help people from falling victim.
Absolutely. Renee, this probably won't be the last time we see scams coming on the heels of a natural disaster or a health crisis. And if you had just two things to tell people, what would they be?
I know I've already said that, and it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but they have to not give out personal information, and they have to read their statements. Just look them over. That is the one thing that they can do, is read their statements, because they're always going to look the same, which is nice. You know, all the different doctors' bills look different. But once you know how to read the Medicare summary notice, and once you know how to read your Medicare Advantage explanation of benefits, you can stop the fraud at the front door before it takes off, even if you've given out your information. And please, to report. Call Montana SMP, call 1-800-MEDICARE, call somebody if you've given out your Medicare number.
Absolutely. Get to know your local SMP person, get to know your local area agency on aging, because those are great folks.
Yes. That's good advice.
Wonderful.
And the 1-800-551-3191 will again get people to their closest office on aging in the state.
Renee, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate all of this really wonderful information you've been able to give us, and all of the great work that you do all around the state. So thank you for staying tuned today. Hopefully you remember, never give out that personal information, and make sure you give the SMP a call anytime you look at your statement and find something you don't recognize. Thank you for staying tuned today.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.